Welcome to the Turbit podcast. I'm Michael Tegtmeier, founder and CEO of Turbit. And joining me today is Oliver Kayser, head of asset management and part of the executive team of SAB Wind Team, one of our earliest partners and the first to implement our integrated Turbit Blue insurance solution. SAB manages a significant portfolio of wind assets across Germany and I think also France, and has been at the forefront of adopting a data-driven approach to operations and maintenance. Hi, Oliver. Thank you for being here today. And I'm looking forward to diving into SAB's journey and sharing your experiences with our listeners. Hi.
Yeah. Hello, Michael. Sorry, Michael is better since we're in English. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm really looking forward to discuss with you our approach and our experiences we had so far with Turbit and all the ideas around it.
Cool. So, Oliver, maybe it's nice if you give a short introduction about yourself and maybe also SAB Wind Team.
Yeah, I'm Oliver Kayser, working at SAB Wind Team for more than 6 years now, heading the asset management department, as you already mentioned. In a broader perspective, I'm part of the industry for roughly 20 years, part of it in the downstream business, so to speak, because I started my professional career as a trainee in a very conservative, traditional municipality company, which later became part of a pan-European utility. But then with an intermediate step in the capital goods industry, I found my way to the right side of the story, to the wind industry. First of all, I worked for an OEM, mainly in financial communication. Then for another intermediate step at a financial investor, also being heavily invested in solar, wind, hydro. Before I was approached by a former colleague, so from a network contact to join SAB to work finally more on an operational basis, more with wind farms as such, and that's I think a pretty good fit if you have a general overview of different parts of the value chain. And now I'm able to bring that into our operating fleet, which is ever growing. So SAB, as you mentioned, is active in Germany as well as in France. We are a developer and operator in both markets. Have a, let's say, very deep organizational knowledge. So we have our own project developers, we have our own operations team, own legal department, even own LiDAR devices to do wind measurement campaigns, colleagues who are coordinating the construction side of the story. So we are, let's say, we have deep expertise in the whole in our whole company, and therefore I think we are a trusted partner from different sides of the story. We know what we are doing, and I think a bit outstanding, or at least a kind of differentiator to our competitors in the project development field is that we have a develop and hold approach. So what we want to do is to keep the assets in-house for 20 plus years, and therefore we are pretty interested in let's say getting the best out of the turbines, doing or trying to help that the wind farms are doing what we promise to banks, insurers, landowners, our founder, which is still a managing director of the company. So I think that's a bit of a different approach to other developers, that we do not develop wind farms in order to sell it later on, but really try to operate it on our own feet.
Cool. Oliver, I was thinking to ask you the question, like, how was the operations and maintenance of wind turbines like 10 years ago when you started, and when we didn't even know about each other?
Yeah.
Like, how did it look like, maybe for for an idea?
Yeah, I haven't been with a company since 10 years, but nevertheless, I think 10 years ago, SAB took the decision to insource technical operational management. So build up all the structures you need to supervise turbines and to be in the role of monitoring and coordinating the subcontractors, coordinating the service providers. Then, while the whole industry became more complex in different angles, another layer was integrated, which is asset management. So that we are able to work on a more portfolio-based approach, trying to standardize certain contracts, the way how to deal with your subcontractors, especially the OEMs. So mainly we are still working with the service parts of the OEMs, which we are operating. But as said, the industry became more complex. Technology got more complex. We've seen opportunities in the electricity marketing as such. So therefore, specialization is key, and let's say that was one thing why we took the decision to do a little bit more than just looking at the screen of a let's say standard operational software.
Okay, so in other words, you were highly specialized on one thing, and then you did more and more things in one firm, and everything got more connected, I guess, the departments, the tasks, etc.
That's right. We got new colleagues on board, bringing new ideas, having seen different angles of our industry. I think that was also the entrance door for you as Turbit. And luckily, our management is giving us enough headroom to work on new things, to try out certain ideas, certain devices, whatsoever. And I think nowadays we are really benefiting from that.
And I think this is how we also met. I think very early in the days. Must have been. Please correct me here. Something like even 6 years ago, the first contact.
Yeah, that could be. That could well be.
And I remember that you guys were asking about LiDAR measurements and how you can maybe use AI to make the data better, and whatever that means.
Yeah.
And then we were talking a lot together, and you realized, oh, we do a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Maybe from your point of view, what was the reason you reached out to us or to a firm like us?
Yeah, I think you do remember it right. Although it's 6 or 7 years, it has been 6 or 7 years since we had been in contact. So we all know our industry. It's maybe not a small family. That's a bit too romantic, I think. But it is at least a small village where you know a lot of people, where you know whom to ask, and that was the case here. So. A former colleague of mine, as well as a former colleague of yours, brought us together back then because we had two wind farms which were underperforming from our point of view, and also which were under, let's say, more monitoring, more supervision from the financing bank. And they said, okay. What's wrong there? You are not reaching the yield assessment figures. And then we started with, as you rightly said, with LiDAR devices on top of the turbines to see, okay, do we have anything in the, let's say, on the technological side as such? But the LiDAR device was not covering so much, or we had some problems there because turbines stood, let's say, or were positioned in the field that the data was not sufficient enough. So therefore, we spoke to each other. You did a pitch with your, I don't know if it was the second or third version of Turbit back then. But then we found together, set up a pilot project, and analyzed the data of the pretty complex wind field. To be honest, so we are operating 28 turbines in that wind field, 18 directly, 10 on a, let's say, corporation side of the story. And then we have another, well, at least 15 smaller turbines in the field. So it's a complex wind field as such, with wake effects and stuff like that, which couldn't be figured out with the LiDAR devices. But we thought, okay, give it a try. Let's have a look if there's anything wrong there in the turbine technology. And in parallel, and I think that was, mind my words, a bit of pain in the ass for you. We did a back testing with another set of data, because we had a rotor bearing failure in another wind farm with a downtime of at least half a year. And we thought, okay, if your software is capable, then you should have been able to see this rotor bearing failure way before the failure happened.
Yes.
And maybe you can tell the audience how long it takes to do this back testing. But I think this back testing experience or result, that was really the key driver to took the decision to work together.
Yeah. So yeah, we analyzed the data and we found out that this bearing issue was manifesting in higher temperatures of the rotor bearing, actually 6 years before it happened, this problem. And I think that was quite a good argument for the team to start a more intense collaboration. But it's interesting. You sort of came from the idea, I have a real pain. I really have a problem in a wind park. I don't know why it's underperforming. So you were looking for vendors. We came together. We always got along really well because we are both super technical, both teams, and we understand that it's not so easy. You cannot just look at a power curve. No, you need to look into different wind directions, different conditions of wind speed, turbulence intensity, wake situations, etc. So we came together there, and we had a quite new approach with AI here.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, we looked also into temperature data, and then that was the moment to start more like a regular collaboration, not like just one project. Yeah. Cool. So
maybe to give the audience an idea of the figures, we have currently 75 turbines under monitoring with your system, converting into 200 megawatt of installed capacity. And the turbines which we are monitoring are to a large extent 8 to 15 years old. But we have also our first, let's say, 5 megawatt turbine equipped project under monitoring. So today it's a broad range of different sizes, different ages, as well as different OEMs.
Yeah. And I remember when we started working with your operations team, it was also not so easy to convince people that were doing this job for a longer time. So I remember one of the challenges was changing also their workflows and getting trust and belief that an AI can do something the same quality as you did on a maybe weekly basis. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this and how you overcame these challenges.
Yeah, that was, I think, the trickiest part of the story, really, to convince technicians, and they are really technicians at heart, sometimes 15, 20 years in the industry, former service technicians. And if then, let's say, more academical people, let's phrase it like this, came up came up with a new idea and say, okay, let's try this. Let's see if this works. There is a natural skeptical attitude towards that. So that took some time. I think this exercise with the back testing was one element. And then over time, we have seen different occasions where we really have seen or have figured out cases or incidents which were made transparent by the AI rather than that colleagues are diving into SCADA data. Yes, you could have seen it in the SCADA data, but who on earth is looking at SCADA data of, as I said, 75 turbines and more per day? That's not possible.
Yeah.
Or you need a really huge workforce, and everyone in the industry knows how crucial it is to find experts in this industry. So step by step, they have noticed, okay, AI is not an enemy, is not something which is where my job is at risk. It's more a tool, and it's more an, let's phrase it, electronic helper to figure things out.
Yeah, that's so true. And it took quite some events to feel this really and to really understand this, I think. And I remember one moment where we were looking into an error of a turbine or in a lower power production of maybe something like 5%, not much. In the beginning, and in higher wind speeds, maybe a little bit more. And yes, you could have seen that if you would have looked at power curves on a weekly basis or something. But our system had flagged this time as suspicious, and we looked into it, and then immediately 3 days, your team could contact the service team and ask what's happening here, what's wrong here. And then funnily, the service team was doing some maintenance in the pitch system, and there's an offset that you can set to debug something basically on the pitch system. And there was a 6-degree angle that they were playing around with, but after the maintenance, they just forgot to put it back to 0. So the whole turbine was running with 6-degree offset, although it shouldn't have, for several days. And
true.
This way you noticed, and I think also the OEM was a little bit surprised that you noticed this so fast. It's also a nice leverage to increase the quality of the service in the field. And then they drove back and identified the problem. Oh yeah, we forgot to put back the offset, and everything was fine after I think 1 week or something.
Yeah, that's right. So we, let's say, minimized the losses, which could have been way more if we wouldn't have had a kind of alarm system, a kind of monitoring. So it can also be these small things, or just to mention another occasion where we also had an over temperature, where we figured out that it was simply a filter which was not the newest anymore. So the filter was changed during the next service interval, rather than having a larger downtime due to a more severe problem. So it can be smaller things, and I'm sure if there are any prospects or any lead or opportunity customers from you, that's the way to start. And obviously, our technical colleagues from time to time ask, "Oh, when is the AI figuring out a real problem?" And then we said, "Oh, Well, I think we are lucky that they do not figure out a real problem, because we want to be in front of the wave or on the wave rather than behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something which you need to emphasize again and again and again to decision makers and to the ones who are working with the system, that it's not about finding the big problem, it's more about avoiding the big problem and big downtime.
And I think this is such a great and important point you're making here. If you are looking for the big damage and you want to prove that AI can find the big damage, you're
Yeah.
looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah,
What you
that's right.
want is that AI finds all the tiny small things,
Yeah,
details that potentially lead to a big problem. So
that's
if
right. Yeah,
AI does a good work, it's only finding the boring stuff,
yeah,
and you will
that's
be
right.
quite
Yeah,
disappointed by it, because if you always find the tiny things and you immediately repair them, then you will never have the big thing, or very
yeah,
rarely.
yeah,
and
that's
and
true.
and AI is very much capable of finding also the big things, but they just happen less if you work with AI.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So there's like this effect that when you start looking into the data and everybody knows that you as an operator are looking into the data, also the service starts behaving a little bit different. I think you also noticed that in your quality
Yeah,
of things.
that's right. So what we've done is we had been very transparent with the OEMs and with the service organization. So we said, hey, look, we have an additional monitoring system, or we have an additional AI system to supervise certain parts of our portfolio. So be aware of notifications, take them serious, and we try to be transparent and open. And at the end of the day, it's collaboration. Everything is interested in high availability turbines which are producing and so on. So we tried not to. Yeah, I think it's always tough at the beginning that your partner does not see it as a threat, but sees it as a helper as well. And I think we are on the right track there. Of course, you have changes in your contact partners, in the ones who are dealing with you on a day-to-day business, and maybe you need to describe it again and again. But we've seen that our OEMs, that are our service partners, have accepted the system, have accepted the notifications, and trying to follow what we are sending over.
Yeah, I think it's another important point that you're making here, that you need to build trust with your service partner, and
Yeah,
that does not work in a way where you just blame the service. Hey, why didn't you find this? And pressure,
yeah,
pressure, pressure. Then of course they don't react to it. But if you put it in a way that, hey, we have this new tool here, we are now looking into it. We might be wrong, although in most of the cases we are not. But here's
yeah,
an idea of what you could do next time you're on the turbine. Then they realize, oh, that's true. They were
yeah,
right, and then they get trust, and they don't. And it's a collaboration. They also have a benefit of it.
yeah,
And
true.
then if you have a system that's really working and giving a good output and low false positive rate, the relationship with the OEM really works. And a lot of people ask us, like, but what if the OEM doesn't react? Yeah, it's then not in the interest of the OEM or the
True.
service
Yeah,
not to react in the end, because
yeah.
they have a huge benefit.
Yeah, and I think they've understood that we put some work on that beforehand. So we do the weeklies with your team. We do the internal classification. We double check if there were some grid outages or events from the direct marketing company, for instance. So it is, let's say, pre-classified events that we are handing over. So people have made up their mind of the classifications we are notifying. and therefore the OEMs and the turbine manufacturers see that it's not the boy who cried wolf story, but it's really take it serious what we're sending over.
Yeah, and you also have implemented a real workflow within your team. So you have changed a little bit how you operate, or you have added things to your operations and to your service in the end, right? So you ensure higher quality of service than maybe somebody who doesn't use AI, by adding a workflow where you take every case, every event from the AI system, AI monitoring serious. You look at it, you discuss, you consult, and then you manage that actually something is done on the turbine. But it's I hope not too much of work, and the tools help you in doing that, and building the right process is also a key thing here.
No, we have set up a dedicated team for the preparation and the execution of the weeklies. And what I'm trying to tell my colleagues is that, hey, please see this as a chance. That's job enrichment. Where do you have the opportunity to work with AI? And we are not talking about ChatGPT and stupid comic figures, but we are really we are really talking about serious use cases of working with AI. So we ever emphasize on, hey, this is job enrichment. Take this as an opportunity. We can learn about the behavior of turbines. We can learn about AI as such. So I think that's really a benefit. And we all know that people are skeptical when change comes around. But here is something where my colleagues see that it's also a big help for them from time to time.
Yeah, and I think the operations team is learning from the AI, not necessarily because the AI is telling them stuff, but because the team is, in a way, spending more time on events that matter, and it's not, for instance, checking power curves or checking SCADA data manually or with a system that doesn't work so well every day, and it's a waste of time, busy work. But the AI tells them, hey, this is really interesting. Really, please look into it. And in some cases, the AI doesn't know everything. It doesn't have all of the knowledge that you know about the turbine. And then you can bring that together. And actually, you work more efficient. You work more like an expert. And the expertise in your team grows, I think.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
If you work with AI versus if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so I think you, SAB Wind Team, has managed like a really good workflow. So from software and AI to the human in the loop who's making sure that actually something is done on the turbine. And because you have adapted this process so early, you also have gained a lot of knowledge and trust in the process in your team. And now comes that's also actually the reason why we have been talking to you as one of the first customers, trying out a very new product, which is the combination of doing predictive maintenance plus an insurance.
Yeah.
And we call that Turbit Blue. But I think that was one of the reasons we as Turbit were talking to an insurer, HDI Global, and we were in many workshops figuring out how can you combine an insurance with predictive maintenance. And at some point we needed a customer. We need to try this out in the field. And then we came to you. From your point of view, what were the key ideas and facts that led you to the point, oh, this is interesting, we need to try this out?
Yeah, so I think that was really a perfect window of opportunity, phrase it that way. because when you had the idea, when we spoke in different workshops, we were in a phase where we did some renegotiation of full service contracts, prolongation of full service contracts, with the aim to align all these service contracts, because they had been closed over the years. The OEMs have developed, the customers have developed, and then we ended up with, let's say they looked the same, but the details were different. And we said, okay, if we need to prolong certain full service contracts with some ideas we had, then why not amending the ones which were closed for 20 years, so that our technical operational management is working basically on the same contractual concept when it comes to working together with the OEM. So the idea is to harmonize all contracts, optimize them, and getting out some of the stuff we've seen in the industry, that availability goes down at the back end, that you need to put some, that you need to do some contributions on logistical stuff and transport and cranes when you have larger repair works in year 18 or something like that. We wanted to avoid that. So let's say we wanted to have a clean full service contract. But this was then, and then we had to accept a liability limit from the OEMs. I think we see this liability limit in every newer service contract nowadays. But back then it was unusual. So, okay, the idea was we managed to get a contract which fits to our needs, but we had to accept this liability limit. And then the idea came up, what can we do about it? Is there an insurance solution to cover this limit, or to mitigate that one? And then I think, I'm not quite sure if the insurance company was the driver, if you were the driver, but then we had several meetings with you, with the insurer, with our insurance broker, which is the key person in this in this story. Obviously, our legal department had a look at it and looked at the new policy obligations we needed to fulfill. And then I wouldn't say out of a sudden, because that was not out of a sudden. I'm not quite sure how many negotiation rounds and presentation rounds you must have had working together with a large insurance company, even a listed one, by the way. I can imagine that was quite some work to do. But then, out of a sudden, our insurance broker presented a policy which where we said, "Oh, hey, that's about it. That could fit." And I think the surprising element in all this was that we could have taken, let's say, boring insurance and pay a high premium, or we combine the Turbit solution, which we had on some of these wind farms anyway, plus the insurance policy, and it even leveled out or was slightly below. So we said, okay, that's also a business case which we could then discuss with the lenders and with our owner. But let's say, even if it would have been on par, so premium of a standard insurance policy and modern insurance policy plus the fee for the Turbit services, even then, I think the one with the Turbit Blue approach is better, because you have the visibility which you wouldn't have had with a let's phrase it, normal insurance policy. And that was the moment where we said, okay, then we can go for it. Then we can close this new concept, and then the work began for our legal department and the insurance broker to work on all these contracts. But then at the end of the day, we found an alignment. We had an overall concept for a major part of our operational fleet, and so far we are quite. It worked out nicely. We're very that was a great approach. Okay, we did not have any failures. We did not need the insurance so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah,
but that should work out at the end. That's the deal anyway. No matter what kind of insurance you have, that's always a bit of paperwork afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, but maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, maybe.
Sometimes you don't. Everybody's looking at the turbines quite thoroughly now because they know there's people are really looking at it. Yeah, I think it's quite. It was quite a road and a way to get to this point, to get together as a team from Turbit Insurance, but also SAB, to get together and make this work together and create a win situation for everybody in the end. It was indeed a lot of meetings required and a lot of presentations required to get everybody on board. But now, as you said, you have a portfolio that's working really, really nice. Maybe because of it, we don't exactly know, but you have you look at the turbines in a much more thorough way. So what you did is you closed the gap that the new full service agreements were leaving behind with this insurance. The gaps were not so high as I remember as they are maybe today, even with new full service agreements. It was still okay. So we ensured that remaining gap, but to way better conditions as if you would have had, and you talk to your broker, to other conditions in the market.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's quite remarkable. It's something new. Towards the bank and the bankability of a project, everything stays the same.
Yeah.
The risk profile stays the same, but the risk profile is moved more towards insurance and away from OEM because they don't want to take that risk any longer.
Yeah.
And the enabler, the catalyst of all of this is the AI and the process that you created in your firm. And I think this is also why the insurer never had doubts that this is going to work, because you have this workflow. You have shown that service teams are reacting to you. You have shown that you understand how to work with the AI, and all of this together, you have been the first trying this out, in the end benefited in better contractual situation. And I think this is quite remarkable.
Yeah, and transparency, because without AI, we wouldn't have noticed certain things, like the pitch angle, which has nothing to do with an insurance, which is really an add-on in this overall system. And we've learned a lot in, let's say, doing the classification, going through cases, discussing matters with your experts. You are able to combine certain cases from other suppliers, although we are not sharing the data to build the bridge to data and all the ideas around that. I think we come to that in the next step.
Yeah.
But I think that's something we need to understand, that the AI as such and the machine learning is based on our portfolio, but nevertheless you are able to transfer your knowledge from comparable from similar turbine types to us, and gave input in classification, because you've seen a lot of downtimes and a lot of events, and so I think that's also a benefit, that you do know-how building up your know-how in different ways.
Definitely. I mean, in the end, we are all learning as a team. We
Yeah,
have better tools at hand now, and we just increase the quality of service, the quality of operation. And I think, yeah, you can say that with SAB Wind Team, you have a um, way better operation and maintenance than you would maybe find with somebody else,
yeah,
because you have established this process. And by the way, it's insured,
yeah.
literally
True.
insured.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So
Full stop.
yes, full stop. I think I don't have to say anything more. So as now we said some several times that risks are rising in many dimensions. One is, for service teams, it's harder to get personnel. The other is turbines are getting older. The other is turbines are getting bigger, and thus downtime is more costly. All this leads to higher risks and this gap of liability caps in the full service agreements, if you can still call them like this,
Yeah,
it increases. So
yeah,
the part of the insurance potential, if you want to insure this, versus the actually full or the service contract, is increasing. And that also means this is an industry trend, and that means you need to look into more and more potential failure cases in the turbine.
yeah,
But here comes a really good opportunity that we want to discuss today as well, which is the EU Data Act. So the EU Data Act is actually changing starting from September 2025. So I think now it's June. It's only several months until this
yeah,
will actually be in place, and the law is in effect. And what it changes is the way how data is owned in the industry. So before it was that the OEMs, the manufacturers of the turbines, owned all of the data and they sold it to the customers, which in this case are you guys, operators and owners of turbines. Now it's changing. Now it's dealt in a way where you, as a user of the object of the um, uh, yeah, networked object in a
yeah,
sense. You as a user have the owner rights of the data, of all of the data that the turbine is generating. And this enables you to do several other things. And this is why we here as a team want to highlight the importance of the good application of that law, because this enables us now to make wind work in a way that it has never been before, because we have this increasing gaps, and with more data we can find more turbine issues. With If we can find more turbine issues, we will be able to close that gap with the insurance, because we can now look at the data with an AI. And there's so many advantages for the economy of that law that we really want to highlight here. Oliver, maybe you can also say many more things here, but I'm going to say one last sentence here. So we founded this group. We call it Daten stärken Wind. So data makes wind strong. And you can have a look on our website, Daten stärken Wind. And it's now German, but obviously it's in EU law. Contact us if you have a user story, if you want to participate. We think it's a really, really great thing, and it should not be forgotten that we have this law, and it should be implemented right in the German government and the German law.
yeah. What more can I add? So I think it's always beneficial to have transparency, to have the data rather than trying to get them. We know this from different OEMs that sometimes you only get condensed data. You do not get every sensor data, which in theory is available or could have been available. these days will be over soon. Hopefully, we will all see how the industry behaves. Therefore, it's I think pretty important to stand up and to say, okay, who's really the owner of the data, which is the user of in our case of wind turbines. So that should help us. We need to be prepared. Our IT systems need to be prepared, especially the technical operational management system, the software which we are using to monitor the turbines 24/7. You should be prepared to analyze more data in future. And as you rightly said, that should help us getting a better understanding of the overall turbine as a system, how certain components are playing together, how can we figure out some independencies which we haven't seen before. So I think there's a lot of work to do, especially the ones who are really number crunchers and technical analysts. So I think that's more or less wide open space for them. To be honest, we are not 100% prepared for that. Working with a vast amount of new data coming into our systems and coming into our company, but we are at least aware, and we have, let's say, Turbit on our side as a service provider to deal with this in a better way.
Yeah. Again, I also couldn't have said it better. It's really important that you think about these things now, because the future probably is going to change quite fast from this point on. The way how we operate wind turbines will maybe change faster than we think. Oliver, what's your vision of the future, maybe 5 or 10 years looking into the future? How will an operator of wind turbines work in Germany and France?
That's something. That's a huge question. I think the trend for renewables is irreversible, no matter what kind of political stress we have at the moment out there in the world. But if you see it on a global perspective, if you see the development rates and the rates how wind, solar, and especially battery storage is growing at the moment, we are heading into the age of electrification, and therefore we need definitely more intelligence in the system. Also on the producer side, okay, we are still dependent on the wind, obviously, but we need to run them more as a power plant rather than working in this old EEG produce and forget approach. And then I think it's definitely an interplay of different actors. So we've seen first offers in the market to take part in a more balancing power market with wind turbines, which can be forecasted better than others. So I think the opportunities are slowly popping up. But I think even more so if you are working on a transparent basis, if you have a really data-driven approach. So I think that's key, that we are not just producing and try to rely on a feed-in tariff somehow, and that's it, but really see us as a player in the overall energy system.
Yeah,
but it's a way to go.
Definitely. Yeah, interesting. So you're saying that being a wind turbine operator, like the amount of tasks probably are increasing. This is also what I think.
Yeah.
So you need to digitalize these tasks. You need to automate things. It's not getting easier to get high qualified personnel. So you need to bet on software and systems.
Yeah.
And then the energy market, if I would really be able to foresee how that will look like in the future, I will probably make a lot of money with it.
True. Yeah.
In the end, it's hard to foresee, but I think what I think many people are underestimating how cheap renewable energy is.
Yeah.
And that will put a lot of pressure on wind energy
Yeah.
in competition with solar plus BESS. And the business case of owning a wind turbine is a 20-year business case, but many of these business cases have been calculated 5 years ago. So what
True.
happens if in 5 years these business cases don't work so nice as they used
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, that's true.
How do you fill that gap? And my answer to this is automation and processes and software. It's
Yeah.
the only way to go.
Yeah, I think that's key, and I think everyone in this industry needs to understand it. Also, small operators, also smaller developers, because otherwise we would end in a world where multinational corporates, be it utilities, be it large
Yeah.
OEMs, maybe from China one day, are playing this game, but not SAB, not smaller municipalities, not the local farmer which has 2 or 3 turbines on his field, or municipality wind farms, which we see a lot in Germany. So yeah, what we need to maintain is from my point of view, the variety of players, which makes this industry so lively and so interesting to work in.
Oliver, I think we could talk several hours about this. It's really, really
Yes.
interesting, as always, to have these conversations with you. But I think we will wrap it up here for the audience. Thank you for being here today, Oliver. And for anybody who wants to listen or learn more from SAB Wind Team, get connected to us or look for SAB Wind Team in the web. Also another remark on the datenstärkenwind.de, where we are forming a group about the EU Data Act and its use cases in the wind industry. We think it's a great law and it's really benefiting a lot of people in the industry. And please join us there. And of course, as always, thumbs up if you want to this podcast. There's going to be many more episodes. And thank you so much, Oliver.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Was a pleasure, really.
Thank you. Yeah. And see and hear us next time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.